My name is Charlotte Wilson, and I wrote a book, The Greatest Man I Never Met, about a con man who worked around Rittenhouse Square area. He went where he thought the money was and all the high rises. And I met him when I answered a personal ad in the welcome mat several years ago. And I thought he was a very nice guy. I didn't know that he was a sociopath until we went out on about 3 or 4 dates. And then different things started to come out. Like, for instance, when we went to dinner and he opened his wallet, I saw credit cards that belonged to Joe Goldberg, Jim Black, Roger Smith. He collected other people's credit cards. So he really was a fascinating character, and I thought as long as he did not involve me with his schemes, I would date him because he was a lot of fun and a very good date. I didn't have too many friends left because I devoted close to a year helping the authorities send Roger to prison. So what I did was put an ad in some of the weekly newspapers in town for people that made really bad choices in dating and relationships. And I started a little group in my apartment, and it grew that I had to rent space in churches and different restaurants around town. And I wound up having 800 people in 8 years that had big problems, and they wanted to spill their guts, and I made it a very safe environment. And thusly, my book is about 15 or 20 of the people that came to my group who were captivating. Some were outrageous, and some were just really down to earth and very nice people. I wanted to make sure everyone paid something, that they would have an obligation. And I never made a dime on any of this. I turned it around and I put it into my ads. But I never knew who would be showing up for each meeting. And I never wanted anyone to say their last name, what kind of work they did. I just wanted to keep it very loose. There was a girl that came to my group that I was told afterwards has gotten kicked out of every group in Philadelphia and New York. And the reason being, she kept the scissors in her Brighton bag. She never left home without a vibrator and the scissors. And she was a chemist in town. She worked for a very good company, but she had a thing. She didn't like ponytails. The man who would collect the money for me each week said, "Be careful. If you say something she doesn't like, not only can she give you a haircut free of charge, she can also sit in the back of the group." She always wore a full skirt, and she could start using the vibrator very discreetly in the middle of one of your meetings. And he said to me, "What would you do? Would you stop her? How would you stop her?" I wouldn't have stopped her. I would have let her do whatever she wants, because then the next week I would have had twice as many people. The people that I think are going to be so witty and so exciting and so brilliant, it doesn't turn out that way. Other than their job and what they're focused on, they excel. But put them in a social situation, they make lousy choices like everybody else. There was a guy who came to my group who worked in City Hall, and he was about 5'11", about 270, and one night we were talking about relationships, and everyone said their part, and then he raises his hand, and he decided he's not sitting anymore. He got up, went to the center of the room, he rolled up his shirt. I was getting very nervous, and he put out his hand, and nobody was impressed with his dirty hand. But he said, "This is my lover, the best lover that I've ever had in my life." And he got a little bit more graphic, and I could not find a tactful way to shut him up. So I said, "I appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing. You did a wonderful job. Sit." I had the meetings mainly at the churches, but they were very liberal because when they took a look at some of the people that waltzed in, there was a time that I even had a bouncer at the door just to be 100% safe and keep it a very safe environment. I mean, I felt like I'm doing a traveling road show, but the people followed me pretty much wherever I wound up. I think they were addicted to the group. And when I would walk out my door on Friday nights, I didn't have a clue what my topic would be. I would walk out the door with about 3 or 4 things in my head, and when I eyeballed the group and I saw what kind of people were sitting there, I came out with a topic. And one night it was Indecent Proposal after the movie. I couldn't get rid of that topic. We did it for about a month. I mean, it was basically, the theme from the movie. And it wound up that that topic was better than the movie. I mean, it went to hell with it. A girl comes in very nondescript with a huge temple sweatshirt and little cutoffs and old sneaks and 2 ponytails, and she didn't have a good complexion, and she looked like she could use a good bath. But she sat down in the group and she spoke about an ad she had answered in Philadelphia magazine, and I had no idea who she was. I never saw her before. She could have been a waitress around here or something. But when I was on the radio, my sponsor was a gentleman's club in town, a very elegant one, and they were paying for me to be on the radio, and I would do their commercials. And when I went down there that night after my group, lo and behold, there was a huge Hello Dolly staircase that was magnificent, and all of a sudden, this woman is standing at the top of the staircase with a magnificent headdress and gorgeous hair, the most beautiful face you've ever seen, and heels that were this high with a body that looked like Dolly Parton, only much taller. And she came down the staircase, and when she was about to walk right onto the bar, she gave me a wink, and I almost fell off the seat. It was the girl with the 2 ponytails that looked like a pauper that was sitting in the group. The people that will enjoy this book are single people that have made not the best of choices. It can be married people who are married and think that it's Camelot out there, that every single person is having a wild time. It shows you the crazies and the nutcases. It almost certifies how good and solid you are when you hear about some of the people. It's a very funny book, and it's poignant at the same time. It's a very easy read. A lot of people have said to me they sat down at night and they could not put it down. They had to wait to see what happens with the next. And I'm no fool. I say the greatest man that I never met for the last chapter. I didn't want anybody to know who he was up front. And if I have only one regret in my life, it is not meeting that man.